Hello, this is alertwolf here. Gonna bring you another review. This one is of Mifune, episode 2. This one's called The First. And this episode was good. We get introduced to some... let me sit right. We get introduced to some main characters, and the rest of the main characters to the show so far. Which is, basically, we get introduced to Mifune, who's I believe they're in the grade above them, and she's the president of the ESP Research Club. Or is it Society? Club? Yeah, club, I'm right. And basically, she drags Kotoura. See, I'm getting better at her name. I told you to get better. She drags Kotoura off, and Manabe follows to get her to come into the club room. Now, he's like, can I join too? And she's like, well, what's your power? He almost goes with, they animate him and he looks like he's going Super Saiyan. He's like, I have super pervy powers, and I can transmit to my perviness through ESP. And she's like, that's a power. And he gets to come with them. And so they go off into the Research Society room, the ESP Research Society room, which looks like a straight up a haunted house. And she's afraid to go in. They both were. They get dragged in, and they get introduced to the other character, which is the vice president, and Muroto. And he is this. They thought he was actually, a grade schooler who got skipped up because he's very short and he wears glasses. And actually, he's not. He's the same age as the president. And they're the only two members because other members flee after she kidnaps them. And, Kotoura is like, I may flee too. And so she locks her in. And they have to fill out an application. And Manabe, his application is all on the dirty superpowers he wants, And they start talking about their experiences, and that's when Mifune lets an image of her past slip out, of her as a child, and it's something messed up because it's done darker. And again, this anime is not afraid to dive into the well of despair and sorrow for these characters and just bring a little depth. I mean, I love shows that do this. I love shows that on the surface are funny and kind and like upbeat, but underneath there's a layer of just fucked up darkness there. I love when you have shows that can pull off that contrast. I think the first show that I remember that did that, not to get too far off subject, was Full Metal Alchemist. I mean, that's what drew me to that show. But that being said, so a day goes by, and you have Mororitani, right? And I think, all right, her nickname is, because I gotta read it because I'm not good with the names. Mioria. All right, so Mioria is in love with Manabe, and we learned that from the first episode. And she tries again to get his attention and go on a date. He says, no, I just joined a club, and he walks off with Kotoura. And this makes her even more jealous of Kotoura. And so they go she tries to get out of going to the club again, but he drags her in. And basically, it's because of that memory that she told her to forget about. And we get an explanation of the memory, and this is Mifune's dark story. Now, just before this, actually before the end of the last day, the vice president and president were talking, and he's like, so you didn't let that slip by accident, you let that slip on purpose, and you're going to use her to accomplish your goal. So there is some ulterior motive involved. And But we find out her backstory now that we're caught up to where I was. And her backstory is quite simply, her mom was a psychic who had power, but people accused her of being a fraud, and eventually it caused her to commit suicide. And she's deeply, deeply emotionally scarred from that. So there you go. And again, diving into that well. And the next thing that happens is we get Mayuria. She's running out, or Mioria, Mioria, whatever. I'm gonna get better at these names. So she sneaks out of her dojo at her house, and she's thinking, and we get her backstory. She used to be picked on and closed off too, because her family owned this famous dojo. Until as kids, he did the same. Manabe did the same thing. He helped her come out of her shell, and he saw what other people saw as something wrong, like her having her own dojo. He saw that as super cool. This is why she loves him, and this is why she's super jealous of Kotoura, because it's the same type. He's doing the same type of thing, and she wishes that was her. So, and so she witnesses them they just happen to walk by her as walking home at the same time. So she witnesses them talking, and Kotoura saying, I didn't know what to say back there. I made her suffer and relive these horrible memories. And he's like, it'll be okay. All right. So the next day at school, they decide to do fortune telling. Mifune is wearing a cloak, and behind her, inside the cloak, obviously is Kotoura. They're trying to read the fortunes. It's hilarious. It doesn't really work out because she can't see who she's mind reading. She's mind reading like from anybody in the room. So it doesn't work. Eventually, it's Kotoura's idea that she'll wear the cloak and start doing it herself. And she does. And she nails it every time. And Mioria walks into the room, her and her two girlfriends. And this pisses her off that she's getting notoriety, because they don't want her to get any more respect, I guess, to look like any more of a catch. So she's like, oh, try to read my mind. Try to tell me the name of the guy you stole from me recently. And then she starts saying just hurtful, evil, malicious shit to this. She becomes a total bitch and lashes out at her. And saying some of the key words like you're a monster, you're a freak, make people uncomfortable, causing her to regress, start crying, and she made her feel so bad she puked. Then after that, we get another scene with the vice president and president talking. He's like, even though you knew how badly your mom was picked on, you still went through with the plan anyway, which made the president feel bad, because she's not a bad person. Basically, her goal is to prove ESP is real so that her mom is not a fraud. And we also get more flashbacks of her getting picked on because her mom was a fraud. And so you get more of her pain. And that's what this is about. These characters, I mean, we don't yet know the vice president's deal, but these characters, or any of the guys' deals, but these females are in pain, and it's up to the dudes to make them feel better. And so the next day she's being picked on, they call her Phoebe and stuff like that. And this goes on for a while, and finally Manabe notices it because they put like a puke sign, instead of a kick me sign, they put that she puked up behind her, on her back. And he realized who did it. He calls this chick that likes him out, and he's like, let me guess, she tried to read your fortune, and your mind was so dirty that she puked from it, huh? She's like, oh, this is my fault. She's like, well, what is she to you anyway? And he's like, I like her. And he says this outside, so leave her alone. And the president and Kotoura overhear this, turning Kotoura's face beet red. And then later he goes into the club room, and he's like, hey, don't worry, I fixed it. And where did she go? And the president's like, she's in the box. And you see this box moving on the floor, and he picks her up, and she's like, he's like, hey, what's going on? And she's super embarrassed by him because she knows he likes her. And then the Prez and Kotoura hug it out, and in her mind apologizes for what's going on, saying it's her fault. And then this loving, tender moment gets interrupted by Manabe, because he's like, "Oh, look, girl, we getting girl-on-girl action," and then they both call him Kurt. So that's pretty much the episode. I really enjoyed this episode. It was very funny, and I like that level of just beneath the surface is that layer of dark and just that extra dimension to these characters is still there this episode, so they've kept it going. I'm not saying they have to do that every episode. I just like the fact that this is going to be a reoccurring theme. And hopefully, it just keeps going. I'm really impressed with the series so far. I'm really enjoying it. And so I'm going to give this episode a 4 out of 5. I've yet to see what a 5 out of 5 looks like on the show. Also, none of the pacing problems that were in the first episode are in this episode. And that makes a lot of sense, because the first episode had to contain years in a few, in one episode. Her whole life up until episode 2, basically, or the mid part of the episode had to be told in the first 10-15 minutes. So I understand why the pacing in that first episode was so hard and so choppy, but thankfully it is not a problem for this episode and I am assuming the rest of the series. So good stuff. So again, I'm really enjoying my second pick. I may choose one more, I'm not sure yet, but either way, click it up if you like it, comment if you must, and please subscribe if you can. And this is Alert Wolf signing out.